Yeah, but yeah, y'all. Tonight we're gonna be tasting a Dashfire. We are our special guest is Lee, the owner. So that's very cool. We've had a few owners on this, Lee, and it's always nice to get like super behind the curtain. Usually when you're working with someone or at the distiller or at the place of business, they get to know a little bit, but who knows more than you. So yeah, really looking forward to working with you on tonight. So thank you for joining us. And so yeah, Dashfires. We carry their canned cocktails. A lot of y'all have seen these cocktails over the last year plus. I've found these when I was working at Wine Warehouse, actually, the distributor of Dashfire out here in California. And I was just really impressed with them because this was back in 2020 or 2019, sorry, when I tasted them, and it was just really impressive because at that time, the pre-made cocktails that you were getting were these like big sweet styles where they're trying to cover up not so great alcohol with even like sweet syrupy things that don't really help balance out a cocktail at all. And the Dashfire is the exact opposite. Their old fashioned is one of my favorites. It's definitely something I take when I'm going to a sporting event, and take it in. Before we get into after we park and before we get in, have a couple of those to enjoy. And it's just one of those things where you can also just do something like that, but then you can also just take them home like we are tonight and enjoy them and sip on them for a while because they are balanced cocktails. These are the kind of cocktails that you get when you go to, for people here in Long Beach, when you go to something like a stave or, something like more of that, like that whiskey kind of bar, like a Blind Donkey, something like that, where they focus on making cocktails very well. And Dashfire, I feel, has done the same with their canned version of them. So yeah, Lee, again, thank you for joining us. Dashfire did start in 2013, right? That's when you all opened up.
Coming up on our 10-year, yeah.
Right on, yeah, very cool, yeah. So what made you decide to? You started with bitters, right? Or was that something you added later?
No, for sure. Yeah, I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow, because if I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. I'm just kidding. That's Whitney Houston. Sorry, I just mess with people. Make sure everybody's listening. No. I've loved flavor. I love to travel. I love spices. I lived in China for about a year and a half, a bunch of time in India and Sri Lanka, and kind of around the world. And everywhere I go, there's different spice markets and all that. But yeah, it was more like 2011 when I kind of really got started. I started a store that was out in that I managed out in New York City. I would spend months at a time out there, and that was the first time I had a real craft cocktail in a craft cocktail bar. It was a cocktail bar called the Little Branch in New York. It doesn't exist anymore, but it was a basement bar, nice jazz music in there. And it was recommended to us, and I walked down the stairs and I could smell that citrus. When you go into a good craft cocktail bar, you can smell that orange zest, when you come down the stairs. And so I was in Manhattan, and I said, well, I should probably have a Manhattan. So I had a Manhattan, and I watched him make it, and I was like, and then I drank it, and I was like, whoa, this is different. There's something different here. And it was I don't remember the rye, but I know it was Antica Carpano was the vermouth. Mm-hmm. And you had a La Parisienne cherry, and I was like, oh wow, this is different. And so I got home and just started geeking out about it. That was probably 14 years ago, I guess, maybe now, or somewhere in there, maybe 13. And so I started playing around and making craft cocktails, and I was just like, this is a wholly different world. And of course, New York at the time was very big on the craft cocktail scene. And even prior to that, what's really cool about the cocktail scene, a lot of people don't realize it, but Japan actually was the one that carried the torch post-prohibition and really did a lot of craft cocktail. So they mastered the martini in Japan. In fact, now you have the Japanese mixing glass, which is pretty basic in creating cocktails now. So a lot of people talk about the craft cocktail scene that kind of blew up starting out in New York, and then it really kind of restarted in Japan. I kind of think, and and I studied it in junior high and high school, and I just kind of love the culture and stuff. So anyways, so yeah, I fell in love with craft cocktails. I started having these gigantic imbibe parties at my house. I had an oak tree, so I called it Imbibe Under the Oak, and I would pre-party with the week prior with like friends, and I would train them on how to make each of the cocktails. So they would each get a station, and we'd pick a historic cocktail, tell them the backstory behind it. You know, they would really learn the cocktail through and through. So these are pretty elevated parties, like they're and so I would do all these, and I was just like realizing that there weren't a lot of bitters out there that that used whiskey as their base spirit. So I was like, what's going on here? Because everybody, you know, uses, you know, vodka or NGS, it's called, you know, neutral grain spirit. And so I was like, well, I'm a bit of a whiskey snob. So I decided, well, I'm going to start messing around with these bitters and making them at home. And so literally my first recipe, the first recipe I ever made, in fact, that's why there's a 1 on the bottle here, that was the vintage orange. So it's a bourbon orange bitters. And this is what really kicked it off. I made this is the debut album. So 1 bitter only, it was our only product that we had at the time. And I just wanted to show that, you know, I wanted to improve on a classic with the orange bitters by using bourbon as a base and the spices, and really found that I had a really strong knack for it. Was really, really kind of blown away by it. So I just kind of kept going and realized that my understanding of flavors, I also did kind of like wedding cakes and stuff like that, like art cakes, you know, cake boss kind of stuff. So I already had a good understanding of, you know, spices and flavor and how to draw out that, you know, the flavor from the botanicals. And then with my kind of world traveling, I really enjoyed that. So that expanded obviously into the largest selection of craft bitters in the world now. We have 22 bitters total.
Wow.
So we
Awesome,
definitely,
yeah.
we definitely know bitters. We know we've made a few cocktails too in our last decade. So a cocktail or two. So we really have made a lot of cocktails, and that's what our whole foundation is kind of built on, is this flavor and the craft and the taste of the bitters, and that kind of really building in. And I had started a separate distillery before Dashfire too, where we did all grain to glass whiskeys. So, and that was kind of my dream, was to make everything to make a Manhattan from top to bottom. So every spirit I made the first rye whiskey in Minnesota, and then I made the first vermouth in Minnesota. And then I already had the orange bitters, and then we also have cocktail cherries. So I had all of the things that make a Manhattan from top to bottom, and it all came from that one visit to the Little Branch cocktail bar in the basement, where I was like, I want to make everything from top to bottom.
Wow.
So it was really cool. It was a cool endeavor. We worked with local farmers on the grain and everything. And so that kind of gave me obviously a good knowledge of the base spirits and what I'm working with and how to make it taste good, but then also how to make it taste good kind of over time as well. Because bitters are macerated and they're, you're drawing, extracting flavors out to kind of hold them in for a long period of time. And that's one thing I also noticed too. Back when we started, we're coming up on like three years in these cans with these cocktails here. And so we were pretty early in the whole canned cocktail craze.
Sure, yeah.
And it was interesting because so many canned cocktails at the time were really bad. There were a lot of alcopops and that kind of thing. And I like my drinks strong. I was always like, why are they all so low?
Yeah.
So we really wanted to kind of show off what we could do. And when we started, I'd been wanting to do ready to drinks for a long time. It just took a long time to be able to invest in the canning equipment and all that stuff. So it was really exciting for us to be able to get into these cute little cans, and now we can for a bunch of other people now and all that stuff. And it's all a big old thing. And we have a new canning line coming this fall. So it's super exciting. But the first one that we came out with was this old fashioned. And we felt like if we're going to come out with an old fashioned, we can't just do a 3-part old fashioned. That would just be mailing it in. It would be too cheesy. People can do that at home. You can buy your bitters, get your sugar, make your old fashioned. This one, we wanted to really, really elevate. And that's I think why you like it so much, because we put, really, we've made a lot of old fashions over that decade. And so really honing that over time. And so this is actually like a 9 ingredient old fashioned. So it's
Wow.
it's pretty deep. And then 10 if you count the water, but which is an important component, but most people don't count that. But so of course this one's a bourbon base. I love bourbon through and through. I've been to probably about I don't know how many bourbon distilleries I've been to in my day, but and I really like a really good tasting old fashioned. We had, we've since made actually 4 different old fashions.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy. We went nuts with the old fashions just because we love that cocktail so much, and you can do so many things with different expressions and different base spirits and all that. But this, of course, is our core one, and for us, my wife is from Wisconsin, and so I don't know if anybody knows, but they're really big on their brandy old fashions over there. So
that's something I've actually wondered about. One of my friends recently moved there, and I told him his job was to go out and figure out why they use brandy as their base for old fashions.
Yeah.
Because it's the one that's like one of the notes I've always heard about Wisconsin old fashions. Like, make sure if you're coming from out of the state, if you want a whiskey old fashioned, you got to note that from the beginning.
Yeah. But also too, like for me, I think drinking is really time and place. Like when you're in a supper club in Wisconsin, like I will absolutely, as in Rome, do as the Romans, so like that's in my mind, that's kind of how I like to live, because then I find, variety is the spice of life, and even there's a very complex menu on whether you get a sour or a sweet, and what your base spirit is, and it's really kind of it is fairly elaborate, but one of in her family, they of course make a lot of old fashions as well in Wisconsin at home. And a couple of her family members made, kind of this spiced simple syrup. And I was like, oh, this is great. And this was long before any of this all started. So I fell in love with Wisconsin old fashions. I like, of course, whiskey old fashions a lot too. And this definitely is kind of a little bit blasphemous in Wisconsin with the whiskey and the strength. And there isn't any Sprite in there, or, the crazy way that they make theirs and muddled and all that stuff. But to me, this is paying a touch of homage to that Wisconsin heritage a little bit, because of course there's no muddled orange in here or anything, or Sprite or anything crazy like that. We're not going to go that far. But what we did is we made a separate extraction of chicory to bring in a little bit of that chocolatey, kind of like richness, kind of like coffee, kind of bringing that in, some broodiness, I guess is a good way of putting it. We use a lot of our bourbon orange bitters in it. We use an ungodly amount of this orange bitters. It's not cheap, but it's also what makes it so good, because when we make that orange bitters, we're starting with a bourbon base, and then but we hand peel all the oranges. So one thing when it comes to citrus and bitters, we have a number of citrus bitters, but it's very different when you use fresh. It's kind of like when you walk down the stairs to that cocktail room in Manhattan, you smell that citrus. You only get that with fresh. There are some bitters that use like dry orange peels, and they're fine. And sometimes we'll use dry orange peel in formulas if we want to go for a very specific kind of flavor. But they're chemically completely different. They go through a chemical change. It's kind of like a banana. A banana starts out green. It's chemically a different banana than a brown banana. If you took a mass spectrometer on and put it on it, you're going to get 2 completely chemical makeups. And the same thing happens with dried orange peel versus fresh orange peel. It's 2 chemical makeups. It goes through a change when it dries out, and you're losing some of those aromatics and volatile chemicals that you get in the fresh. You're kind of losing. So from dried, and you can just never get that out of a dried orange peel. So that's why we hand peel those. So like when we make a batch, we take 4 full-size barrels. 3 of those barrels are jam-packed all the way to the ceiling with orange peels. And then 1 is spices. So it's just like just ripping with botanicals. Our botanical to spirit ratio is like really, really high. So more than almost anybody in the industry. And so that's why ours are really flavorful. But in this case, we're getting tons of that fresh orange peel with that bourbon, which of course, orange and bourbon and chicory kind of coffee all play really, really well together. And then we also add just a touch of dark sweet cherry juice, just a little bit of homage to that. And that's where you get kind of like that nice red color from the old fashioned. It has like a nice little pretty red hue to it. And then just a hint though, you know, not so much. And then we have a number of our bitters in there. So of course the old fashioned bitters are in there. We have put Jerry Thomas bitters in there. I don't know if you know, Jerry Thomas was the first documented recipe of bitters ever created. So there's a book called The Bon Vivant's Guide for Bartending, and it was the first bartending book written in like 1862 or something like that. And so he has a recipe for a decanter bitter in there that you can make at home. And it's just really beautiful because it has like clove and lemon and orange peel and raisins and rosemary. It's just a really, really cool mixture of botanicals. And so that's one of the other bitters we use in there. And just a little bit of star anise too, to kind of bring in that kind of grown up taste profile, I call it, you know, that aromatic. And so, and then we use evaporated cane juice as our sugar, because we didn't go with Demerara because it was a little bit too broody at the end of the day, and with the mineral content of that sugar was a little bit too high. So, but so again, we put a lot of thought into this. In fact, we did modify the formula. We were in bottles before, and before we went into cans, we adjusted the formula even a little bit more. So, but this one's been really, really a tasty cocktail. Is anybody? I see some people taking sips of them there.
Yeah, Pat. Well, Pat has a question real quick.
I have a question. Can't wait. We're gonna drink all three of these tonight, right? So what order should we be drinking them in?
You know, I guess Martinez would probably be the best first choice. We could talk about that one next, actually, if you want.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna.
That's kind of
okay. Before I pour it, it should be shaken over ice. Shaken with ice.
Yeah, you could serve it over just large clear ice, or you can a Martinez would be normally stirred over ice is kind of would be the normal method. Let me show you guys something. Let me see if I have it.
That's actually funny. Sorry, while you're looking for what that, Lee, if you look on the back of the cans, they actually show you the serving style for these. So it shows you like if you want to garnish it, the glass to use, and then stir cocktail on ice to chill and strain into chilled glass.
Yeah, exactly. We're one of the few people that actually puts recommended how to serve the cocktail on the back of it. So
very cool.
Yeah, because not everybody knows, like the Martinez is a really beautiful cocktail. A lot of people aren't aware, but it actually predates martini. So it actually came out before, and it's a really beautiful cocktail. Normally it's made with Luxardo maraschino liqueur. We used elderflower liqueur in this one, a house-made elderflower liqueur. But it's a really pretty cocktail. So in terms of cocktail order, I would say, probably the Martinez first, and then the Manhattan, and then the old fashioned. But if you're already drinking old fashioned, obviously there's no problem.
You know, the Martinez is actually the one I was most excited about because I hadn't heard of this. I'd seen the cocktail before, but I've never tried it. So when it was suggested by y'all that this would be the third one for the tasting, I was really excited that we get to test it out.
It's a really cool cocktail. I've made this cocktail a lot of different variations of this. I made one variation where I actually used my the Chinese bitters that we make, and that's interesting too. But this one is really fun. So yeah, the best cleanest method when you're talking about cocktails, reasons Um, uh, so there's a kind of one of the rules of thought for shaken versus stirring a cocktail is if all of your spirits, or if your cocktail is clear, you should be stirring it over ice versus shaking it over ice. Now, every cocktail can be enjoyed however you want. That's something that everybody should always remember. If you enjoy like your martini like James Bond shaken, then and it makes you happy, then that's how you should drink it. Like forget everybody else who tells you not to do it that way. But it's good to know the original method if you have an opinion on it. But like a martini is 100% clear. So then if you stir it, and one of the reasons why they stirred, kind of the old historical method, why they were stirring cocktails, is if you shake a cocktail, pretty much no matter what, it's going to get kind of cloudy. But back in the day, bars would, obviously they weren't 100% honest with their guests and all that stuff. There's bars like that today too, but they would cut it with other things, and they would also cut it below proof and those kinds of things and put it back in the bottle. And so stirring a cocktail historically was to really kind of show off that the cocktail was 100% made with high quality ingredients, because that was questionable back then. So that's kind of why a lot of those were stirred back then. If you shake like a Manhattan or a martini for that matter, it will taste different. It softens the spirit and makes it a little bit less alcohol forward. So because it's adding air bubbles to it. In fact, Japanese mixologists, they have a 3-point shake technique where they go out like this. And you'll see bartenders do this kind of like very specific shake like this. And that's to kind of like twist it and get as many air bubbles into the cocktail as possible. And they've all this talk and debate over how much is the right amount and all that, and the right ice to use and all that stuff. But that's kind of the big difference. So if you have a cocktail that's got like juices or cream or egg or any of that, that would always be shaken basically. And so that's kind of the general rule of thumb. And then also a little bit of a trick for you. When you're stirring a cocktail, I don't have a bar spoon here, but if you have a straight-sided glass, when you're using a bar, if you have a bar spoon and like I say a Japanese mixing glass, you'll see the bartender stirring the cocktail and their hands always kind of look a very specific way. Well, it's because they're keeping the back flat part of the spoon up against the outside of the glass. And when you're stirring the cocktail, you don't want to jar the spoon around. You want to actually put the spoon with its back to the outside of the glass and get used to spinning it around so the back stays all the way around. So then you have that centripetal motion of the ice spinning, and it's drawing and diluting, but it's not adding and churning up air bubbles into the cocktail. So it's kind of a fun technique to learn. A really easy way, if you don't have a bar spoon, is if you have a chopstick. You can't mess it up because there's no back of a spoon. And you can even buy stainless steel chopsticks and look fancy, but still have a really good stir technique on your stirred cocktails. So I think IKEA's even got some great tall glassware that looks like Japanese mixing glasses for like $3.99. So
there you go. Nice.
Yeah. So a little cocktail practical class there. But the Martinez is the cocktail itself. It's a really pretty cocktail. It's I love gin. Gin is a really pretty botanical.
Here.
Spirit. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Everybody like gin?
Oh yeah. We've done a few gin events for this. Yeah.
Yeah, I say if somebody doesn't like gin, they just haven't drank enough gins yet. Like, yeah. But it's really that simple, because there's so many, and botanically the amount of juniper that could be in it. There's some very strong citrus forward ones that are great that don't have as much juniper. That people can really love. This is a very citrusy kind of gin. I designed it just for this cocktail. It uses a couple things. So we use lemon and orange, and for kind of our citrus forward. And then because it's distilled off, you don't get any of the bitter qualities from the orange and the lemon peel. And then of course juniper in there. And then we use angelica root. Angelica root is really pretty. It's a very bitter root, but it's really kind of a really beautiful one, and it helps bond all of the aromatics kind of chemically together a little bit. So it's a really good, helpful botanical there. That's why you kind of sometimes see it in gins. And we use coriander. So that's our 5 botanical bill in our gin. And because of that, you know, we have this really beautiful elderflower liqueur that we make. Whenever possible, we like to not necessarily sweeten with sugar. We actually prefer to sweeten with something else that's also going to provide like flavor value to the cocktail. So we're actually using pear juice in our elderflower liqueur as kind of our backbone for the sweet structure behind the cocktail.
What kind of juice was that?
Pear juice.
Pear. Okay.
Yep. Okay. And then there's a little touch of apricot in there too for kind of the acidity to bring in kind of that sourness. But then also I wake up in the middle of the night about, you know, thinking about shelf stability and, you know, oxidization and all that stuff. So I've had to stress about all that, so you guys don't have to worry about it. These cocktails have been really thought through. So the great thing about, like, say, using an acid like apricot, for example, is that it's not going to oxidize over time, but it's also really pretty. And pear as well, like things always kind of can change technically over time. There's nothing you can really do about it. Every food scientist will tell you can't change it. But if you use ingredients and you know where they're going to end up in the future, you can kind of play your slice, I guess, you know, is kind of the best way to put it, you know. So like, you know that pear is going to taste good because even if it does oxidize, it's going to oxidize in a really pretty way, like almost like a cider kind of direction, you know, whereas lime will oxidize in a really bad way. So kind of avoid that at all costs. But apricot, really beautiful, right? It's kind of like a dried fruit, you know, you kind of already have this beautiful tartness, but then, acidity, but then just that right flavor. And then the elderflowers, of course, a lot of people don't know it, but Minnesota is the 2nd largest grower of elderflower, elderberries in the country, behind Ohio. So minor known fact about Minnesota that most Minnesotans don't even know. So it's kind of cool. We have really cool crops here, and so it's a really, obviously, a beautiful flower. So that's where that pear kind of plays off of the elderflower aromatics, kind of like that lychee taste that you sometimes get from elderflower, that you taste like in, say, like a Saint Germain or something like that. So so we did that, and then we used grapefruit bitters, but we didn't want to put the grapefruit in the gin distillate because we want the bitter compounds to come through, and you only get that through soaking it and macerating it with the bitters. So so that's why this one's kind of just really for summertime. I love this one. You know, this is just such a great cocktail to sip. You know, it can, like, we, you know, stirred it over ice and served it up. I also like, if I'm, say, like at the cabin or something, I will put it on some ice to kind of let it dilute more over time. I didn't want to have it quite so strong. And then a twist of grapefruit is a really good way of kind of garnishing this one. And one of the things you could do when you're twisting, you can, of course, you know, spritz it on the glass, but you can just rub it on the top of the rim too. And then every time you go up to grab a drink, you'll get this great aroma.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny because you mentioned earlier, like the small glass or the size of the can, and you know, you've talked about the ingredients that you all use. So like the first time people have tried this, when like we first brought them in, a lot of people were like, oh, the size of this, like, you know, it's only 100 ml. Like, how is it, you know, how is it $5.99? I'm like, well, look at the percentage that you're talking about, which is something that you mentioned earlier, Lee, about, you know, wanting a canned cocktail that hits something, like has a right percentage of ABV. I would also like, and plus you can tell after trying even just one of them, the ingredients that they're using are also at a different level than a lot of what you're getting in a lot of those canned cocktails. Where, as you said before, they're just using neutral grain spirit and just whatever else they can kind of get together, a lot of sugary stuff. So then you just get these big syrup bombs that, I mean, the reason why they're 10% is just like wine. So, lower ABV means more sugars in them. So yeah, really
Well,
nice.
this can is actually the exact size. If you ordered a Martinez at a cocktail bar, volumetrically it's the same. In fact, actually it's slightly larger. Generally, you'll get a 3-ounce pour for, like, say, an old fashioned. And all these are basically kind of classic cocktails that are served in that method, either in a martini glass, and a lot of times martini, or like a champagne coupe, the wide mouth coupe glass that's really popular now. Those are 4-ounce, and obviously you don't want it right up to the rim. So this is 3.4 ounces, and it just fills up that glass perfectly. In fact, I've seen some, like, YouTubers that are, like, reviewing the cocktails, and I'll see them. Sometimes they're, they've shaken it over ice, and there's a 3-ounce and a 4-ounce version of a coupe. And I've seen them, I could tell that they have the 3-ounce, and I'm like, they're gonna pour over. It feels like it's not a lot, but it's actually the exact size you get at a cocktail bar. So $5.99 versus what you're getting at a cocktail bar, is definitely on par. And these are all, like, my bartender friends, they've got their favorites and stuff too, but we're making this just like they would at a craft cocktail bar, just in a much bigger vessel. When we do it, and it's only 500 gallons is our batch size, but we think about this. In fact, we have more limitations than bartenders do, because they don't have to worry about the oxidization. They can squeeze lime juice, put it right into a cocktail, and go straight into it. We have to think about how this cocktail will taste good over time. So it's more of like kind of a barrel-aged cocktail program, more along that level. And bartenders, when they do, like, say, a barrel-aged cocktail in their restaurant or bar, they have to really, really think about that cocktail and be very careful with it. So, and the nice thing about the batch sizes that we're doing is we make micro adjustments on, fractions of pounds and stuff like that, which translates into, like, really, really minor adjustments. And so what's actually really exciting, I think you kind of brought it up in your video a little bit, we're currently in the process of moving to a new facility. If anybody ever comes to Minnesota after November.
We do. We come to Minnesota all the time.
Oh, do you? Oh,
Lisa
awesome.
and Marilyn do too.
We
Yeah.
like Minnesota Twins, so we go there to watch their games.
Oh, right on. Great stadium.
I'm a Minnesotian.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
There we go.
Because we're going to have our cocktail room open this fall. We're moving to a whole new facility, and we've, basically quadrupled our footprint. And we're going to make some really cool cocktails. We'll also have a patio next summer, and all that. So I'm excited because I'm going to be able to be more face to face with everybody and kind of get this feedback. But on our menu, one of the cool things that we're going to have is it's going to be called a guinea pig. So you get to be a guinea pig, and a cocktail that we're working on for a product that will eventually reach its way to the shelves. You'll get a flight of that same cocktail with micro adjustments, and then you'll get a comment card, and you'll be able to tell us what direction.
That's cool. That's it. Who doesn't like interactive drinking? That's really fun.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that I think it'll be a really cool way to kind of get feedback, but also, like, because we're doing this back of house right now with, like, all of our employees and friends and family, doing these micro adjustments. But I love it. I've done other classes where I've used those classes as a way to, like, taste test new cocktails and stuff. And
Sure.
it's great because
I just want to say that when I first tasted the Martinez, it was amazing that it's out of a can, because out of a can you think, you get watered down. It's not really hefty. This was like, oh my goodness, this is spicy. It's like a really made drink already, not a canned drink.
Yeah.
I just love it.
I'm sure all of you have gone out to restaurants and bars and drank craft cocktails. You're obviously interested in this kind of thing. You've had a lot of cocktails, and sometimes they miss and sometimes they hit, you know. And but like this is on that same level with
It is.
those, you know. So yeah, we want people when they drink these to really feel like we really put the effort in, like a craft cocktail bartender would, because you know, it's important. I mean, you know, they're going to enjoy this. Our cocktails end up kind of being a little bit more of an event because it's higher alcohol. So you kind of, you know, you can't drink a whole bunch of these or just, you know, do this and then go mow the lawn, you know. It's not the time and place for it. But when you're having one of these, it's usually a bit more special. You're kind of like having friends over, or you're hanging out with family, and you know, or at the cabin, and you've got a moment where you're going to chill, and like it's a special time of the night or something like that. You're going to watch one of your favorite shows or whatever, you know. So these cocktails are very much in that kind of, it's that same vein.
Well, you can have these and not bring a truckload of ingredients to actually make them yourself,
Sure,
or
yeah.
make a like thing.
Yeah.
These do it. These are perfect.
And you can trick your friends, you know, like you're like,
There
oh
you
yeah, you know, I've gone to bartending school, I've learned a lot of things, let me show you. And then just pick up a line of all the dash fries, like, what you looking for? Here are my like 4 signatures. And then yeah, I mean, depending on who your friends are, if they shop at the wine country, they might catch you and be like, I've tasted this before, this isn't from you. But the general public can get away with it for a little bit at least.
Yeah, I'd love to do a like hidden Dashfire canned cocktails across craft cocktail bars around the Twin Cities, and like see if anybody notices, you know. So it's but it's, you know, in Minnesota, you know, they love these. I mean, we go through tons of them here, and but they trust us now. So anything we ever come out with, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna try that, because they know we make good stuff, and you know, they've had it before. So we've kind of built that reputation now over time. But yeah, this one I really do love summertime. A fun way to also serve this is just in a stemless wine glass too.
Oh.
Actually, a lot of the cocktails are.
I have it in a martini glass.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the coupe glass is awesome. That's kind of like the utter classic. That's what I would. Yep. There you go.
Pat has all the glasses. Yeah, she's got a nice collection.
Yep. You got to hit up the antique shops and grab all the coupes you can possibly get. They go quick.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jeremy.
Yes, Val. Yeah, Danny.
Yeah, one thing for sure, if you don't want to fool your friends, you make sure you don't let them look in the trash can and see the can.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, if you're gonna go through the process of lying to your friends, you got to be elaborate about it.
That's
You can't
right.
just like, you know,
You got to be
split
very
it.
tricky. Yeah, exactly.
You got to come
Put some
out with sweat on your eyebrow. Yeah.
Put some old empty bottles in there, then they really will be impressed.
There you go.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be fun to bring out the cans at the end of the night?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah, exactly. Good proof. Be like, you all thought this was me, but look how
Yes.
delicious these cans are.
Yes.
not new.
Yep.
Right on. So, what is it? So, who likes the? I mean, I'm a big fan of the Martinez. This is, like I said, the first time I've tried it. Very impressed with the flavor profile of that. That's definitely going to be one added to the list for sure.
Yeah, I go back to that one a lot. That's
Nice.
that's like I said, my you know, each season, like I said, time and place for different cocktails, and this one is definitely for warmer weather for us. But yeah, and it's crazy cool because like so many people who aren't really into, like, you know, have had other cocktails or might not be really big into gin. Still, I wanted to make something that worked for them too, so it doesn't
Yeah.
overpower on that ginger, but it's still there. Like you can tell it's present. So yeah.
Yeah, and
So
gin and
what's our
sherry.
next cocktail?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deborah.
What's our next cocktail that we should try?
I
Yeah,
believe we're doing the Manhattan next, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Manhattan. Okay.
Need another glass.
Yep, I see it there.
Yeah, go ahead, Lee. What's up with the Manhattan?
Sure. So, like I said, the Manhattan was kind of what started it for me, right? So when I was at that little branch, ordered that first craft cocktail, really kind of saw what it was, and So for me, Manhattan is like it is my favorite cocktail. I think for me, it's what kind of started everything. And so it's really important to me. But at the same time, I've had a lot of Manhattans and I've drank a lot over time in terms of like really good craft cocktails, made a lot of cocktails. So this Manhattan was literally made for myself. This was made the way I want to drink a Manhattan, like exactly the way I want to drink it. So what I did here, and also because I really want to make sure something tastes good over time and all that. So if you're reading the ingredients, you'll see that it doesn't say vermouth, it says sherry. Technically that's true, and it's also kind of not. So the government kind of doesn't allow us to put the statement on there of what we actually really did. So what we did with this, have you had Antica Carpano vermouth? It's really good. It's kind of like the classic one. It's kind of a little bit more vanilla forward. It's a really tasty, comes in a tube sometimes. Really nice vermouth. It's great even just for sipping. So my goal was I wanted to essentially kind of create an Antica Carpano for this because that's kind of was my favorite one for a Manhattan. And of course, using rye as the spirit, you know, the classic spirit in here. So what I did is it's sherry technically, but again, I'm thinking about how this cocktail will taste over time. So some people actually make Manhattans and bottle them and can them. And they actually just use vermouth, which actually is a little dangerous because it still grows bitter over time. So vermouth, as some of you might, you know, now know, because of course craft cocktails have, you know, use a lot of vermouth and stuff. They need to be refrigerated. They're kind of like a fresh bottle of wine, and that's why vermouth has always had such a bad name. It goes bad quickly, like a wine bottle does. You can put it in the fridge for maybe a month and get away with it, but it oxidizes over time. Well, I didn't want my cocktail to be oxidized, but I still wanted to have that nice, rich taste. So what I did is I started with a cream sherry, and then I macerated all of my vermouth botanicals, my own botanical blend, for my vermouth, and then combine that. And because I used a cream sherry, I get the really beautiful raisin quality that and raisin sweetness you get from like a good sweet sherry. But then I also got all my strong botanicals. I even used rye in this vermouth. So it's like rye on top of rye when I proofed up the spirit instead of using a brandy there, just because I wanted to, because I like my whiskey. But in there's really beautiful botanicals, like rhubarb root, that gives that quintessential kind of taste. And then we use fig, which is kind of, you know, that's kind of bringing in some of that sweetness as well, and has that really beautiful kind of lasting taste. But then we use cascara, and cascara is a really beautiful botanical. It's the cherry on the outside of the coffee bean. So if you see a coffee bean, it looks kind of like bright red. And what they do is they pull that sheath off of the coffee bean, separate that out, and then they dry out the coffee bean. So that outer shell is the cherry of the coffee bean. So of course that cherry, it's very thin skinned, but it's really pretty because of course it has tastes from the coffee, but it has like a little bit of a cacao nature to it. And it's really pretty. Plus it has even just like a little touch of, I mean, not a lot, but a touch of caffeine in there. And it's a really cool botanical. So that's kind of was the heart of mine, and kind of creating this kind of, you know, and a touch of vanilla, you know, to kind of bring in that Antica Carpano. So it was really kind of creating a killer vermouth, and then working with, you know, our bitters to kind of elevate it as well. And there, Jerry Thomas is kind of, again, the one I mentioned before, was kind of the one we used there to kind of really bring in some beautiful tastes and flavors there. But yeah, this Manhattan with the fig, of course, you know, fig really complements, you know, Manhattan taste profiles. And so he's mission fig in there, and just really, really pretty and really, really tasty. So it's how I want to drink a Manhattan when I drink it. I like kind of a slightly decadent Manhattans, because of course if you didn't want to have that decadence, you might go with kind of more like just a normal whiskey old fashioned, you know. This is
Hey,
if you want a little bit
Lee,
more. Yeah.
Lee, the other day when we were in the wine country picking up our supply, I was mentioning to Jeremy, and he agreed with me that Manhattan is a great, great cocktail to go with a big steak dinner.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And
You
then
know,
with bitters and then the vermouth and all that, you're getting help with the digestion too. Because
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, it is.
Tasty and good for you. That's important.
Yeah.
Remember that.
There
Yeah.
you go.
That's a good way to
Yeah,
look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love the fig note in this because yeah, it's like a very different or it's a different profile on a Manhattan where so usually it's like that darker cherry, kind of darker barky or bark note to it. But yeah, that fig really, I mean, fig's one of my favorite fruits. It's something we grow up in our family, like people have fig trees. So it's just that was one of the things I definitely noted when I first tried the Manhattan a while ago, was that like really nice like fig note in there.
Yeah, and that's kind of something you would see on a craft cocktail menu, right? Like
Yeah.
the Scara Manhattan. It's a unique spin. We're the only ones that make it, and that's the fun thing about craft cocktails. Like I'm friends with micro distillers all over the country and the world actually for that matter. But it's just so cool to see what everybody's making nowadays and all the creativity that people are doing. And it's really cool to see that people are now starting to put more quality into cans and stuff. So, but this is, it is again like a craft cocktail menu, like you would expect to see. Oh, look at there's this unique ingredients on that cocktail menu, and that's why we have the full offering we do, because it's kind of like designed to be like a craft cocktail menu with everything all together.
Mhm.
So,
Great.
yeah.
And again, like I mean, like Lee mentioned earlier, if you go to a craft cocktail bar, you're paying like $12 to $15 for these, like on the easy end. Like that's if they're being nice with their pricing. These are $5.99. You take these home, $5.99. Like, and you get to stay home. You don't
These
have
are
to pay for
$5.99. Oh my gosh. I don't know what they cost.
Exactly, Deb.
$5.99.
Yeah. But yeah, like
if somebody had a restaurant or bar and was selling cocktails at $5.99, they would be like just rushed constantly.
oh yeah, there's a bar not too far from my house here on 4th Street that when they first opened, they were doing $4.99 whiskey showers, and I was worried about it at first, but then I had one, and it was a decent. I mean, for exactly when you think about the price for a $5 whiskey sour, it was well done. So me and my friends stayed for that night, and it was a good time.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we want to have in our cocktail room, we want to have a vending machine, an old vending machine where people can just get the cans out,
There
Yeah,
you go.
there we go. I like that.
Yeah. So they got to serve themselves if they want, and they can, or they can get one of the fancy ones or something. The new ones we're working on. Yeah.
Now, can you freeze the cans and just pour them after the freeze, or do they freeze?
Yeah, at this alcohol level, they definitely don't freeze.
Yeah.
You'll be good. In fact, you can, fridge or freezer, either one, you can throw them in there. You'll be fine.
Oh, perfect. Because when I make my martinis,
Hmm.
I freeze it. I put it in a carafe and I freeze it. So when I want my martini, I just pour it out. It's really cold.
These are nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and this at 38% alcohol, it's also kind of designed. Bartenders like to use like high proof whiskeys when they make cocktails, like Manhattans and old fashions, because they want to control the dilution level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another reason why we have this at high alcohol level, because as an imbiber myself, and I enjoy these cocktails, not everybody is going to want them 38%. And at that point, you have control over it. You can never proof it back up though, unless you add somebody else's spirit in there. So these are designed to literally kind of really, that you can freeze them, have them in the cooler, at the cabin, and drink straight from the can. I like to drink them from the can. I think it's fun. I feel like a giant, But then it's also nice too, if you do need some dilution, again, everybody should enjoy cocktails the way they like to enjoy them. And if they need a little bit more dilution, they should, do that and enjoy it. And so they can add ice. The different kinds of ice you add can have an impact on your dilution. If you use a big cube, it'll keep it cold, but then it won't dilute it as much. If you use smaller ice, it's gonna, melt a lot faster. And so it just depends on the scenario,
Lee,
they're all higher proof, so you can kind of bring them down if you want.
Lee,
Yeah.
are you doing anything with vodka?
We have a vodka lemon lavender martini.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yep.
To say those lavender bitters are phenomenal.
Oh, have you had them?
Yes, definitely.
really?
We use them
Really?
for one of our signature cocktails at our wedding.
Really
So
good.
thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
I actually had that cocktail. Yes, it was very good.
Interesting.
Yeah, we
Okay.
make I've got a daughter too, and she loves making kitty cocktails with the bitters, because like it's just, it's that extract flavor, but yeah, the lavender, she can identify all the aromas from all of these.
Wow.
Yeah, she knows them all, so it's pretty cool. She'll be our running the business.
Taste tester when she grows
Yeah.
up.
That's funny. I used to do stuff like that when I was a kid too, was make kid cocktails with bitters from the store. So no, that's funny.
Well, we have a very complex kitchen, so we have like malic acid and ascorbic acid and like citric acid. And she's like, this needs a little more malic. I want that full acidity in there and stuff. And so she's pretty funny. And then I always have like lots of different kinds of juices, weird ones like aronia, different things like that. So
Jeremy,
definitely getting used to a lot of.
Yeah, Denny.
Yeah.
have you ever put any bitters in a Roy Rogers or Shirley Temple?
No, I think I kind of more went with like the flavors of the bitters and then built around that.
Okay.
I mean, with the Shirley Temple, I guess you could do some more like a citrusy bitters though. I wouldn't do like, but we're getting a little off topic.
Just a
Robin,
thought.
did you put a cherry in your Manhattan? Because that's a nice touch.
Yeah, I did.
There you go. There, you
Nice.
like that garnish there. See, again, yeah, I hadn't, it's funny, I didn't notice that until earlier this week that you all put the like serving suggestions on the back end, which again,
Yeah.
very unique for a canned cocktail. Because usually for companies that make these ready to drinks, their just goal is for you to just try to chug it out the bottle and get there real fast. Where, I mean, again, ingredients wise, profile wise, everything that is Dashfire just tells you like, enjoy this. This isn't an end goal. This is the goal.
And that's one of the reasons why I like Manhattan so much too, because it's one of them that comes with an edible garnish, the cherry.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I've
I tried the Manhattan. It's really good.
It is.
yeah,
Yeah.
Really good.
yeah, and it's we even actually make cherries as well, even cocktail cherries. But I've been wanting to make like a whole line of like other edible like garnishes, like spiced apple and like
Yeah, that's the trouble with Mai Tais. You can't eat the umbrella.
right.
Or the flamingo.
Yeah. I wanted to originally my cherry formula was actually based on because Wisconsin grows a ton of cranberries, and so I made spiced cranberries for garnishes, and those are really, really good, but they're difficult to work with. But yeah, no. And I also have a really cool recipe for a golden cherry that has I haven't made or produced these yet. I made them myself, but that is grapefruit and cardamom. And so you have this really beautiful like a summertime like Manhattan cherry. Like use like a Cokie Americano instead.
Yeah.
Make nice, bright summertime Manhattan. 'Cause
Nice.
you can drink Manhattans all year, in my opinion.
Nice. Right on. All right, so I think we have one more. I know we have one more left, but yeah. So the old fashioned is the last one of the three we have. Lee was talking about this a little earlier, but yeah. So this was the first one I had from Dashfire, and this was when I tried it. I was just like, whoa, because at the time, again, a lot of the stuff I was trying, especially with the whiskey ones, were like sweet whiskey cocktails, and whiskey itself overall can be sweet. I don't see why a lot of companies need to add more sugar to their whiskey RTDs.
One thing that I don't like is that the sugar overpowers the greatness of the drink.
Yes.
And this old fashioned is great.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Deborah said it quicker than I did, but yeah, like I remember when I tasted it the first time, I was just like, wow. I mean, you mentioned the citrus peel, how much citrus peel you guys, or orange peel you guys put into this. That was one of the first things I was like, I've never had a canned cocktail or a ready to drink cocktail that was so vibrant with citrus flavors that didn't seem artificial. And I mean, it makes sense because these aren't artificial. These are real orange peels that are going into this. And that was the first thing that was unique about it. And then like the fact that you get to actually taste the whiskey and not just the simple syrup. Because a lot of the other ones are like, oh yeah, you get like a touch of bitters, you get the hot taste of whatever base alcohol they're using, and then you get that syrup on the finish. Where this one, it's like, no, you get every single piece of an old fashioned if I was just making it at home too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And of course with the old fashioned, you want to definitely taste the whiskey. Like that's the thing. You can't lose sight of that because that's kind of really the main reason why you're drinking an old fashioned, And I mean, yes, of course you could have straight whiskey, but like you really want to taste the whiskey when you're having an old fashioned, in my opinion. So it even wants to have just a little bit of a nice little bite there, from the base, from that spirit, so that it really kind of sits there. But yeah, you can't overpower it. You really gotta it takes some time to kind of really get it right in that spot, and you're right too, like there are with a lot of those with a lot of the ready to drinks, I can taste it right away because I've even done flavor design for other people. There's other big brands, national brands that have had us redesign their stuff because they're like, our stuff tastes like garbage. Can you make this taste good?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, it's not hard. You just use good stuff. Like, don't use, essential oils and extracts and try to fake it. Like, the real thing, and it will feel genuine. And
yeah. I mean, it's just like cooking. It's just like cooking. It's all about your base ingredients. You start with good base ingredients, you're gonna get a good finish. And I mean, exactly what you're saying. A lot of people using extracts, using like artificial stuff, and it's just you can taste it from the moment you try it. You can taste it. I remember, over the last handful of months, I had a rep drop me off some RTDs, and he's like, "Yeah, they're like high, like they're kind of sweet, but like they're higher ABV, so that kind of helps." I'm like, "Do you not see what we have on the shelf already that's been working for us? Like, like Dashfire, I mean, especially the old fashioned. The old fashioned is by far a bestseller at the store, but for the any Dashfire we have it sells well for us." And I'm like, you see the other stuff we carry, like, what makes you think I want a sweet bomb that's just high ABV? Like, I have high ABV stuff that tastes really good too, so let's go with that instead.
Yeah. You'll have to, since you're over at Wine Warehouse, you'll have to tell them to get the 3-pack of old fashions this holiday season.
Oh, we do the 4-packs. The 4-packs sell for us great. But if there's a 3-pack, I'll definitely talk to Kelly and Ryan about that.
3 different old fashions.
Oh,
so it's a rye ginger old fashioned, a rum allspice old fashioned, and then this one as well. So in one box. So yeah.
Well, Kelly and Ryan, put me down for a couple cases. We'll start there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Kelly will make that note. I know. We're good.
Yeah. Perfect. That's awesome. Yeah. No, that was.
If there's a gift pack with some of those golden cherries you were talking about too, just out there, it sounded amazing.
Yeah, I gotta make some more of those. It's been a little because there's not enough edible garnishes out there. I was even playing with making glazé, where you turn the fruit in fruit rind into like kind of like a candy.
Oh, so okay, yeah. I didn't know that was a term of it. Nice. Okay, glazé. So
it's kind of beyond the cherry, with the sweetness, And so I was playing around with like bitter infused like glazé orange peels, because then you could eat the orange peel, still have it in the glass and things like that. Yeah, I played with a lot of weird things like that.
Yeah, we have some dehydrated pills at the store that we kind of use. Like I say, those are edible too, because you leave them in the drink. They start absorbing up some of that booze, and then you can just, chew on that for a little bit.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that'd be fun to make like flowers out of like fruit roll up kind of material.
oh yeah,
Have like beautiful garnished flowers, you know, that are already pre-formed, you know.
yeah.
Like, you know, you can make all kinds of cool like flavors on that, like apricot.
This is old fashioned.
So, all right, everybody. So now that we have tried all three of the cocktails of the night, what do y'all like? What's your favorite? Which one that surprised you? Feel free to comment, or you can type it in and I'll read it out loud.
Okay, my favorite, because I'm a gin person, is the Martinez.
All right, yeah.
It resonates with me, but I like all three of them because they're not so sweet. I mean, usually I try these and they're sweet, but this resonates. There's some sweetness there, but it resonates the alcohol and the flavors more than just sweet. So that's my comment.
Awesome. Thank you, Deborah.
I like the I think the Manhattan, because I do like the fig.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. And by the way, we're gonna be in Minneapolis, I'm sure, next year in the spring or summer, so we're gonna be looking you up.
Yeah,
And I'm going to try and tag along with these.
Yeah, we do a Oda vacation. We do North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota. So we do the Odas.
Cool.
The Otis.
Two distilleries that are back to back, so we're right behind another distillery, so you'll be set. You know.
Oh, there you go. You got an afternoon set there, ladies. There you go.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah, well, check it out.
Yep. Perfect.
Right on, y'all. Let's see. Kelly says a Martinez for me, old fashioned for Lindsay. That makes sense. Lindsay's an old fashioned individual, so I can see that.
Yeah, it's great. Now it means she won't drink all the Martinez ones for me.
That's all for you.
So what do you have at the store?
Send the Martinez to me.
Which ones do you have at the store?
We have all three of these. So all three are available at the store. Yeah, so as usual, for any of these events that we do, you all will get 10% off for supporting us, for supporting Dashfire. Next time you're in the store, you can pick up any of the three individuals, or like I said, we also have the old-fashioned 4-packs. So let me see. Wisconsin old fashioned will be the key term that you need to tell. That's your promo code is Wisconsin old fashioned. Just because I take notes during these of things I like that we converse about, and that one is always a funny conversation for me because it's very regional. That's a very regional conversation that you have with people. So Wisconsin.
If they walk in with a cheese head, does that just
automatic? Yeah. If you walk in with a cheese head, automatic.
Do we have Dr. Caps?
Are you going to start carrying their bitters as well?
Wine Warehouse. What's up with that? You guys have? All right. So yeah, I will then talk to my two WW people, and we'll start looking at that. That's no problem. That's next week's adventure.
Yay.
Jeremy?
Jeremy.
Yes,
Jeremy?
Yes, Denny.
Will you be able to also eventually carry his vodka brands?
Now that's a question for my suppliers.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about his gin brand?
Again, that's a question for the suppliers. Lee might have some answers for this. I don't know. Lee?
Well, I think the lemon lavender martini is available in that market. So that's one that maybe might be able to help you with. But we don't have a separate gin. It's just in the cocktail form. So,
See, that's dedication alone. Making a gin just for a canned cocktail, like just for but specifically for the canned cocktail. Like most people would just outsource that, grab some gin that they know from a friend who makes gin, and use that. But Lee and Don are like, hey, let's make our own gin. Yeah, all the focus. That the biggest thing about Dashfire that, I mean, especially after talking to you tonight, Lee, is that the focus into detail that you all have about every single piece of ingredients that go into these cocktails counts and you all think about it, and that's really cool because again, in the RTD world, that's not the standard.
Yeah, there's a lot of even stuff now that's just flying out on the shelf, and you can tell taste wise, you know, it just hasn't. They just want to get it out there, you know. It's because it's the hot thing right now. So it's kind of sad to kind of see that stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, the stuff that really does taste good is what's going to stand and be there at, you know, years from now. So that's kind of what we're after, you know, keep tucking your head, working hard and making good quality stuff. And I think when we look up, everybody will still be there and appreciate what we've done. So.
And the great thing about your Manhattan is it's so uniquely complex, and I mean, it has a great taste. It's not your typical run of the mill Manhattan you get at an average restaurant, and that makes it great. It's very good.
It's very good.
Yeah, and it's great to have. It'd be great to have that cherry so I could swirl it around a little bit and then have it for dinner afterwards.
Oh,
So.
it is.
Raise your hand if you are you raise your hand first if you eat the cherry at the beginning.
Oh, I'm a cherry first guy. Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, wait, no, I have two. One at the beginning, one at the end.
Oh, you see?
At the end.
At the end, I want all that alcohol to soak in.
Oh, hell yes.
I mean, it's soaking into me. I don't have to worry about the cherry. It's fine. Like, just give it a nice little stir up front. What about you, Lee? What's your style?
I'm definitely I'm a patient. I like to wait till the end. I like to
Yeah.
I like to ask for two, so I have one at the beginning and at the end. Just saying.
See, Rob and Lisa, y'all got the same style. I like it.
I'm a little greedy, I want two.
$25 a month. I put 3 into mine, but I eat them all at the end.
Well, truly, if anybody is ever in Minnesota, you know, look us up because
We will.
Go every year.
We will.
Custodian.
yeah, don't come in the winter.
I've been there. I've been there in December, it's 20 below. I've been there in February, it's 30 below. So yeah, been there, done that. I lived it. So, and I'm from northern Minnesota. You guys are like wimps. You're in the south. Just saying.
I used to live up in Grand Rapids, but we do cry sometimes in the winter.
Oh yeah. Well, okay, Grand Rapids, you're lateral. You're all
Well,
right.
if you get negative temperatures, you get to cry. That's fine. That's you don't. It doesn't matter what party you in. Like I lived in Kentucky for 5 years, and somehow
your hair freezes. You know.
Yeah. So somehow in the 5 years I lived in Kentucky, we had negative weather. We had negative degrees 2 of the years. I'm like, when I moved out there, you people told me that none of this would happen. You say that slightly snows for a little bit, no problem. We had ice storms, we had snowstorms. It was horrible, but it was a great time. But I remember like seeing -2 in my temperature reading. I was like, who goes outside? Who does this? And there's a whole part of the northern part of this country that does that all the time. Y'all are wild.
Well,
this is why you need canned cocktails.
Yeah, what we do is we go into the distillery and we make stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
In my youth, schnapps was my life.
But see,
this is high school, people. This is high school.
You can totally, because of how small these are, you could totally just like stack these outside when it's snowing. And so when you have to leave, shake one up, power yourself up with some heat on the inside, and then get out.
When we were on the lake in the fish houses, that's where we had an outside cooler, bud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cooler. Everything's a cooler.
Upstairs, I just cracked the door that goes into the storage area, which isn't heated, and that's where I keep my beer and my drinks up in the TV room when I want. And Easter, I had an Instagram post where I was like, you know, pissed off at the Easter Bunny because it snowed in Minnesota Easter. So I was like, take that, Easter Bunny, and I had a Manhattan sitting in my Adirondack chair in the snow.
That's good.
You Californians have no idea, really. You really don't.
No.
We have no
I wish I had no idea.
We're spoiled. Yeah. I mean,
I live in Northern California and we have no idea.
No.
Yeah, Deb was like right up next to Tahoe, so she kind of knows, but yeah, still not the same. It's a different kind of ball game. Different kind of ball game in the Midwest there.
But we all
Awesome.
survived, you know, even with
Yeah.
the cold, we all survived. But hard
Awesome.
liquor was very prominent in our young lives. Let me just tell you that. It kept us warm.
For sure.
No. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Lee, thank you so much for everything. You know, this was a really good lesson in you know, what makes the difference in canned cocktails, and it's the effort and the care. And you know,
Yeah.
you all at Dashfire put in all the effort and all the care, and each of these cocktails is a great example of that. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you coming on tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
These
Yeah.
are great.
Next summer.
Really good.
Yeah, we're gonna find you.
Cool.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a good night. Lee, really
Good.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lee.